Hey guys, Sebastian here from Everyday Digital, and I wanted to make a follow-up. This time we're not talking about the blah 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 nitty-gritty. You have heard it all before. Check out the other video that I made before about my verdict. This is gonna be the more technical part where we're gonna dive into the gameplay. We're gonna check things out, and yeah, we're gonna talk about the overall performance. But before I do this, check this out. Check this out. Do you know this? Oh, man. H3. I got this gift from my wife, Christmas gift. Best wife ever. Okay, anyway, everything ready? Lav mic on? Cool. Then let's dive into the gameplay. So it's gonna be a little bit interesting because on the one hand side, we're gonna have the camera recording in 4K, 24 frames per second. Then we have GeForce Now sending in 60 frames per second. And I have a 2K monitor, so it's going to be a meta mess. But we will make sure that this is somehow working out just fine. And yeah, so I need to put on my headphones because otherwise it's unfair. I can't hear nothing. Awesome. So then let's dive into it. You have seen this one before, so let's just jump right into, where is it? GeForce Now. There you go. I recommend you guys always check there's nothing running in the background. For example, I have a backup service, sadly not sponsored by Backblaze, but I can highly recommend these guys. Yeah, make sure you don't upload anything in the meantime and make sure that nothing interferes because you don't want to have that. All right, so is my controller connected? Yeah, because you know, if you're like me, if you're like an Apple guy, this thing, I mean, I love it, but it's really not for gaming, and also the keyboards, because obviously had to be then the same thing. So what we're gonna use is the DualShock controller. I said before that I would have so much loved to use the Switch Pro. This is such an awesome controller, really, I love it. The local Steam works, the cloud Steam does not work. So, nah. Wouldn't it have been awesome if the Stadia controller would work? Okay, so let's go with Hitman 2, simply because I think it's a good game to demo, you know, and show what's going on. So this is not shortened. You can see the real sequence going on here. Okay. So, title screen is there. Let me make a little bit of space here. My goodness, I have so many gadgets. Okay. Okay, so we could technically, you know, we're on a virtual PC so far right now. We could mess with the settings. I have tried. I put everything on max. I mean, why wouldn't you? You put everything on max. Ultra. I was a bit surprised that there's no higher setting than that, but maybe Hitman isn't the best game to demonstrate this. But that's the one in my library, so we're gonna go with this anyway. So we hit the play button, and before I will blabber rap you, let's make sure we're gonna stopwatch this, because what I have noticed so far is a really bad loading time, and I want to make sure we're on the same page here. So we're gonna use the stopwatch. Okay. Well, I'm not sure. Let me see if my camera can autofocus this. Okay. Most probably not. Can you? Okay. So I will try to hit the start button. No, actually, wait. No, you know what? We can't do this before we have actually loaded the game. My goodness, Sebastian. Okay. So I should have known better. But still, we're gonna still stopwatch this, no matter what. How are we gonna do this? We take the stopwatch. Stopwatch, stopwatch. Okay, let me tone down a bit the audio here. So. All right, let's go. Enter. Okay, and we're gonna load the game. I really like this part. I think this is Miami, the finish line. And let's make sure we give it a proper, correct setting. Okay. And start. Okay, you know, of course, we're not 100% streamlined, so to speak, but it gives us a good idea of what's going on. I think this is one of the things that, in my opinion, cloud gaming really has to perform, and it really has to be spot on and fast. I mean, you don't want to wait for that to load. I mean, this is annoying, but it's okay. It's not so bad this time. I timed it once and it was about 45 seconds. Now, I don't know how good Hitman is in terms of general load times, but I expected it a bit to be faster. So stop. 47 seconds. I mean, you tell me, is this good? 47 seconds? Okay. What's with my audio? So, okay. Next up, the controller. What I really like is the fact that this immediately works. I mean, the same with Stadia. If you use the controller, but you also have the Chrome browser open, you can immediately switch between key inputs, and this is super cool because you see, I can do it simultaneously. If I hit the X button, nothing happens because, you know, this game doesn't react on the X button. But let's go and try to open the door here. I could now press this button, or I could press on the keyboard. You might have noticed that it says the epsilon button, but I don't have the epsilon button because the way how this works is it tries to interpret the settings from the DualShock controller, and yeah, I noticed that it doesn't always work. There might be a setting. You could let me know in the comments. Maybe I got something wrong there. I tried to mess around with the configuration of the gamepad. Yeah. Anyway, but I know where this button is, so yeah, let's just go along. Yeah, and that's Hitman. I mean, so keep in mind that we're recording this now. It's a screencast from my monitor that is a 2K monitor, not a 4K, I'm sorry. But anyway, since the stream comes in 1080p, even the 4K monitor would have just had to render this one up. So I know graphic comparisons are difficult. Oh, you see, we had a bit of stutter here. Graphic comparisons are a bit difficult just because spotty connection. Come on, it's not spotty connection. I noticed that this warning comes out pretty much like per default. I think I have a pretty good internet connection. I will show you a little bit later on in terms of latency, in terms of bandwidth. And this warning, I think, is like pretty much a standard warning just for them to be on the safe side. So they say, hey, we told you so, you know, don't blame us. We told you it's a spotty connection. But what I wanted to say with regards to the quality, I mean, and then again, for me, this is PlayStation 4 graphic. I'm not saying it's bad. Don't get me wrong. It's nice, great, and I know that, you know, there are definitely other games out there which are really pushing the hardware to the max. But yeah, I only have that game right now, and Destiny, and I think one more or two other games, but they're not worth testing out because they're more like arcade shooters. But I think this is a nice demonstration in terms of, you know, the colors and how things look like. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Now, let's walk a little bit around to show you different elements. Especially when it comes to rendering. Where's the entrance? keep always messing up the entrance. Okay, so okay, we sneak past this guy. All right, trespassing, of course. Okay, and also this guy trespassing. Then let's try to get somewhere else. Oh yeah, this seems to be... Are we trespassing here? No, we're not. Okay, so you see it renders everything nice. Doesn't seem to slow down in terms of frame rate. We have an indicator of the frame rate in the bottom left corner. I hope you see this, like there. Although I have to be very honest with you, I was a little bit confused because this screen can do 60 frames per second. The stream from GeForce also does 60 frames per second. I wonder if the indicator of the frames per second is the interpretation of Steam's frames per second counter. Because to me, it seems fluid, and it also wouldn't make any sense to lose frame rate. And the reason why I'll show you in a couple of seconds. So you see there are no frame rate drops, so to speak. And well, hello. Nice outfit. Okay, let's keep this family friendly and clean. Let's walk around a little bit more. And how about we sneak in here? So, okay. Now, what is really cool about GeForce Now, it has a debug mode, and I wish there would be something on Stadia as well, because I'm a nerd kind of guy. I like to dive into the technical part. I like to understand what's going on behind the scenes. So I really appreciate this. You can activate it the following way. I'm going to do it together. Keep in mind, I'm here on Mac, so this might be different for you on your end if you're using a Windows, but I think that in general it's pretty much the same. Let me just pull this up. Okay, you hit Option Command and F6. Okay, can you see this? Okay, Option Command F6. And now look at this. We have a debug mode on, and this is really, really cool. If you like statistics boy, then this is something for you. I'm gonna walk you right through it, don't worry. First up, the first element on the left hand side, and I need to look in my cheat sheet because, you know, I don't remember everything. The first thing that we can see is the actual average frame rate based on frame to frame percent time. I'm not going to bore you with all the technical terms because some of them are a little bit out of my league, but let's just say it's the frame rate that we see. That's the frame rate that if you would connect a monitor in the data center, that will be the frame rate. The next line, FT, average frame to frame receive time from server. My understanding is that this is either the time it takes for the output to the server or from the server to my screen, but I might be wrong here. But don't worry if I don't get all the values right. If you know them better, drop the comment in the comment section and let me know. But, sorry, I need to take a apple juice. That is apple juice, nothing else. So, next part is the jitter time. And more interesting, at least from a bandwidth point of view, is the next element, the R. That stands for rate, and this is the bit rate. Keep in mind, a lot of people make these mistakes. I mean, I don't know, since the beginning of the internet, there was always this problem with megabyte and megabit. So let's make it one more time very clear. Usually, ISPs like to advertise with megabits per second. Why? Because it's the higher number. But it's very simple because you divide it by 8 and then you receive the actual megabyte per second. So if you have 100 megabit per second connectivity, you could transfer 12.8 megabyte per second. Let's make sure that this is correct. 12 point. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 100 divided by 8, 12.5. There you go. iPhone never lies. Okay. So back to the transfer speed. This is megabit per second. And you can see here that at the very same moment, we're consuming about, yeah, somewhere between 15 to 20 megabit per second. However, if we go into a little bit more challenging areas, oh, you know, I switched to the, let me take my joystick again. If we switch to an area where there's more going on, we will see that this will actually increase. Right now, you see, 39 megabit per second, 42, wow, 41 megabit per second. I'm always stunned about the bandwidth, the consumption, because keep in mind that this is not 4K, this is 1080p. And it is a lot. I mean, it is not easy on the bandwidth. And also keep in mind, if you have something like a backup, because I actually have a backup, and you need to make sure that this is not running, for example, in the background. You wouldn't notice it. If right now Backblaze would kick in, I wouldn't even notice it. I would maybe say, oh, you know, the experience is really bad, doesn't really look good, but you need to make sure that you compare apples with apples. You need to have some sort of ideal testing scenario. So what I wanted to say is that you can see the rate to be, you know, somewhere between 41, 42, 38 megabit per second. But it obviously varies based on what needs to be submitted to your client. So if we go in an area where it's, for example, darker and less happening, you can see how the frame rate will drop. You see that? 12 megabit per second, 7, 6. I wonder if I can find a spot where it's really dark. Okay, really dark. I mean, as dark as it gets. You see, right now we have about 5 megabit per second. Up to, wow, it went down to 4 megabit per second, 3 megabit per second. So you see, it is basically depending on the colors that need to be rendered and cloud dust effects, people passing by, you know, sometimes we have spikes up to 41 megabits. If we keep turning this camera around, you see that it will increase more and more and more. Okay. But you know, then again, I mean, I appreciate the fact that they don't try to compress too much, because if you start to compress too much, then you will have artifacts and you can't see what I see. But I tell you honestly, you would not notice that you're playing this virtually on a remote desktop. Not a chance. It's just really, really good. Okay, let's continue, because you guys want to understand a little bit more about the debug window. What you see next to the bandwidth, the BWU, this is the bandwidth utilization, and this is not your bandwidth utilization, because you don't have that connectivity, I'm pretty sure. Because you see, we have now 33 megabit per second and we consume 5%. So that would mean if you would have a 100 megabit connection, you would consume 10%, 7, 8, 9% of the actual bandwidth. And to me, this is the bandwidth at the server part. So that's how much you consume from the actual bandwidth at that server. I'm pretty sure these guys have connected multiple servers in an array. They have like maybe some 10 gigabit connections connected to the servers, or at least gigabit connections to each server. And judging by the utilization, quick math, I would say they most probably add somewhere around 30 to 50 players on one machine. Is a wild guess, but that would kind of like make sense from a pure bandwidth point of view. Now, the next thing, and this is also really cool, since we started this session, there is a frame counter and it's running rapidly. So you see we do 60 frames per second. So obviously every second that I'm talking right now, 60 frames have been more submitted on the counter. And let me just make sure that I'm in focus. This is really helpful because we can do actual frame counting with this, but later more. The next value is the round trip delay, and that is the time it takes from my MacBook, where the GeForce Now client is running right now, via my network, because I have connected it to cable, to my outlet. Then it goes to my router. From my router it goes to my internet service provider, and that where it becomes a little bit less transparent, because keep in mind, we're not on a private network. This is all public internet. So there is, you know, packet loss, there are peaks when a lot of people are using the service at the same time. You know, you might have you know, just imbalance in terms of fiber cuts, downtimes, hardware failure. There are a lot of factors that could influence this result, and that's why I'm always saying, you know, it's not so simple to just compare it based on how much bandwidth you have available, because you would have to also consider the fact of your internet service provider and how good their routing is. I said this in my review video that it's very important to understand the routing of your ISP. Obviously you have no influence over that, and you know, that's also something that you need to be aware of. If your ISP is changing something on their end, you know, they won't tell you, you won't even notice it. Maybe you experience a difference in terms of you know, latency, but that could be because they're doing some changes in their infrastructure, in their network layout. So there are a couple of factors where I would say, you know, it's not really in your choice or in your way of influencing this. But regardless of this, the round trip delay, as I said before, when it passes on to the ISP, it goes all the way to the servers, and then it needs to be processed, and then you have the output signal, and then it comes back. So the round trip delay that we see here with 32 milliseconds, to be honest, is really good. It's really, really good. Previously where I lived, I had 35 megabit per second connectivity, and on average my latency within the same city was 30 milliseconds. So I'm now a little bit further away than previously, so 32 milliseconds is, in my opinion, really good. I mean, I would consider it neglectable. Okay, and then you see next to this is the packet loss. The packet loss, you know, naturally happens, shouldn't be too high. And this is a value, not in percent, this is a value, the actual frames. So what does this mean? If we have 60 frames per second and we have lost about 611, let's say 600 frames, we lost 600 frames. That means we lost about 10 seconds since we started this stream. So we are now in the 70,000 package. That's about, if I have my math is pretty bad today, 70,000 divided by 60 frames, 1 divided by 60, 20 minutes in the, we are 20 minutes in the stream. So we would have to do the calculation what that actually means in terms of packet loss, but I would say somewhere in the range. Actually, let's calculate it. So we have 71,900, 72,000 something, okay? So we take the 611, we divide it by the 72,500, let's make it quick, and then we multiply this by 100, so we have 0.8% packet loss. That's okay. I mean, that's really good. I mean, this is really, really good. Come on, it's okay. You will always have some packet loss, but it's okay. Now, the next one is CPU load, and the CPU load is based on your CPU. This is the value for one core. So if you have multiple cores, oh wow, now we saw a little bit of a slowdown. So if you have multiple cores, that is one core. So right now I'm utilizing 20% of one core of my quad core CPU, I think it is. So, and that's why I said, like, I mean, this is really cool because you can run this on pretty much anything. You don't need to have a high-end PC, and I think this is open up gaming for more people than previously. And what else do we have? So we have a couple of other values. I think this was, I need to look at my cheat sheet here for a second. Second line. Latency between, the B value would be the latency between receipt packet to start of processing. Then we have decoding, the D value, the latency from begin to decode complete. We have the R value, render, the latency from decode complete to render complete. What do we have here? 1. I think this is pretty, in milliseconds, by the way. Percent time. The latency from render complete to post swap buffers. Total time, add up all the above for the total latency through the client. So what, 12 milliseconds? 12 milliseconds. Good, as I said before, fantastic. So, by the way, the next one is the resolution. This is the resolution of my screen, 2560 times 11440, and then you see the stream coming in 920 times 1080. And the SQ, which is not sequence, it's stream quality. This is a value that GeForce Now is, I assume, calculating based on all the values above, and 100 is 100%. So at this very same moment, we're enjoying the absolute best. It doesn't get any better than that. We have 100%, everybody is happy. Also pretty cool, the next value, E. That is the input, but I don't know why they call it E. Number of input events processed. Yeah, so for example, I hope I can sync this up with the video. If I need to find something to interact with, can I just kick someone? Okay, yeah, okay, I shouldn't have done this. Yeah, that was stupid. Oh my goodness. Can I run? Can I run? Go! Oh boy. Oh boy. So we need to quickly swap. Oh boy. All right. Ooh, can we blend in with the crowd? No, I don't think so. But okay, I'm just trying to swap. Can I somehow change really quick? Yeah, let's go into parking. Okay. If I'm not gonna make it, let's go in here and let's hope for the best. Let's close this and let's hope for the best. What I wanted to say is that this is the input, and when you move anything or you touch anything, then this is what contributes to this. So right now it's 0 because it doesn't. Oh boy. Ah. Okay. So the problem is I can't really tell. Yeah. Okay, I'm not gonna make this. Oh boy. Oh boy. The problem is I can't really tell what button I have to press because I have a different layout. So what is with this guy? Okay. Thanks. Let's load this one more time. Yeah. What I wanted to say, the number of input events processed. So if we move or do anything on the controller, you will see this actually increasing. And because we didn't do nothing at this very same moment, oh wow, this time it was really fast. Oh, spot on. You see this counter going up. I don't really know how it can process the information of me just moving the direction buttons, because to me it was like up or down, but I assume it has like a gravity in terms of if you move it just a bit up or a bit down. But if you press just the X button, you see, let me predict one more time, 2, 1. Yeah. So you see it receives very little value. However, if I move around and do like a lot of movement at the same time, pressing all the buttons that I could possibly press, you see it currently records 193, wow, up to 200, wow, inputs coming from my controller. And yeah, this one is running right now on a GeForce GTX 1080C. Some smart guy from the NVIDIA forum told me that the servers are trying to match the game with the best graphic engine. So I think they don't consider Hitman to be a very hungry game that would read a lot of power. But there is also a different graphic card, and I've seen this happening when I play Destiny. So this is the GTX 1080C. Oh, and the last one is also very interesting. That's the codec. Now, I said in the video before that you can't play on iOS, and that is something which goes on forever and forever. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but there is an issue with the codec. Google is pushing on the VP9 codec, VP9 or V9P. Oh boy, I hope I say correct. I think it's V9P codec, and that's what they use. That's what they use to code 4K and to stream the 4K videos when you watch it on YouTube. The problem is that Apple does not, for whatever reason, want to accept that codec. So what happened is the following. I bought an Apple TV 4K, I think it was 2 or even 3 years ago, can you imagine? And up until today, I cannot watch in 4K content in the app from YouTube. The reason for that is because YouTube streams in V9P. I need to look this up. I think it's V9P. V9P YouTube. Give me 1 second. YouTube V9 V9P. I think it was stream. I want to make sure that I say this correct. V9P. I think it is, yeah. V9P. Seems to be V9P. We'll figure it out. But yeah, since iOS for whatever reason does not want to have that standard, there's not so much availability in general when it comes to these kind of things. But the reason why I point this out now with NVIDIA GeForce Now is because technically speaking, an H.264 stream, however, could be very easily, be implemented to work with iOS. So maybe there is an app around the corner, and we will soon have the possibility to enjoy playing on that iPad, which I would think is a fantastic combination, because you know what, you can actually hook up the DualShock controller via Bluetooth to your iPad, and that for me would be the ideal scenario. Because also, if you have to carry around your laptop, it feels a bit like, I don't know, it's a bit useless to carry this thing around. But anyway, let's continue with this. I wanted to show you also, I will show you in a more detailed video about the actual input delay, because I'm gonna hook up my GoPro, which runs in 240 frames per second. Boy, I need to, yes, I know I need to go. So let me go back. So I will show you in a different video about the actual frame counting, but to give you an idea of how spot on this is, I'm gonna do the following. We're gonna just take the keyboard for a second. I'm not sure if I will be able to match the frames, because it is a bit difficult. I'm recording on the camera, but also the screencast, so this might not be 100% in sync, but just for the sake of argument, okay, so let's try to get to this guy. Okay. So, okay, it will be hard for you to see this, but we have to press the Q button. Come on, this is really spot on. I don't, D, oh boy. W. Yeah, okay. It was anyhow better. But to me, it is really spot on. I notice absolutely no delay. It's maybe for competitive gameplay, if you make your living by playing esports, then most probably you're capable of judging 50 milliseconds, I'm pretty sure. But for the average Joe, to me, I don't see any difference. So I don't notice the delay, I don't notice the input, but we will get to this. Actually, it's pretty good that we got knocked down now, because I wanted to show you something else that you can do, and this is pretty cool. First up, you can always bring up the GeForce menu by pressing the CMD and G for GeForce, where you can also record, but keep in mind it records locally so far. So the stream is pretty much like a screencast as well, and it's being stored on your own machine. It's not streamed somewhere on the virtual desktop. Anyway, you can press the following key combinations: Shift and Tab. And if you do this, you will bring up the so-called remote Steam. And let me just quickly close down my friends list. You can add me if you want. So what you see here is kind of like the big picture overview, or the overlay that comes from Steam. We are 29 minutes in the session, so we're streaming since half an hour. And there are a couple of things that you can do which I think are pretty cool. First off, keep in mind you're actually on a remote desktop. So there's something really cool that you can do. You see down there, the web browser. Yeah, guess what? This is actually happening on their end. And if you're wondering why is this in Spanish para español, no. This has something to do with the following situation. They have most probably thousands of IP addresses, and IP addresses can sometimes be wrongly allocated in terms of the actual GU IP. So just because this is now an IP address that seems to be in Spain does not need to be it is in Spain. And we will do the test actually. And I can show you how I can figure this one out. So we will switch this to English. And here's the funny thing, okay? You can do whatever you want. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a web browser. You can browse the internet. I wouldn't recommend you to log in and do your online banking, but at the end of the day, you can do whatever you want to do. And what I consider super fun, and I'm going to show you now, is you just do a speed test. So, for example, fast.com, if you fire this one up, oh, sorry, I need to deactivate first the overlay because I can't see nothing anymore. Fast.com, you can run a speed test, and this speed test is actually running in the data center. So this is not your machine. This is basically the speed test at their end. So their servers are currently pulling this load. And if you hit the show more button, first of all, you see talking about the IP address and the geolocation. So for example, Netflix is interpreting this IP address to be in Frankfurt, but frankly speaking, it is Frankfurt. What I don't understand is why we're downloading from New York, because that obviously gives us not the aha effect I wanted to show you guys. So we'll try to reload this page one more time, because AIM speeds are much better than this. If we are not able to pull off, 500 megabits per second. Yeah, we can do it differently. We can go on, we just go on speedtest.com. Speedtest.net it is, yeah. So you see, that's what I was referring to beforehand, that now speedtest.net interprets us as, what is this? They think we're from Switzerland. Okay, so we don't do the test from Switzerland because I know we're not in Switzerland. How do I know? Let me show you. First up, we need to write down the IP address. You see this one? 77.111.249.149. There's a bit of a trick. Let's go into my client side, network utility. Now, what we're going to do, first of all, is we're going to run a ping, and that gives us an understanding of what we saw before in the client information about the round trip delay. We're going to make a IP ping to 77.111.249.149. There you go, 30 milliseconds. So this is now the time it takes from my MacBook via the entire chain that I told you before to the servers, and then getting the recognition of the package. And we have about 30 milliseconds of round trip delay. And again, fantastic values. Guys, if you have 100 milliseconds or 200 milliseconds, that still will work. I am pretty confident it will work. Sure, it could be creating a bit of artifacts on your end, because you also need to consider the time it takes for the processing of the input and then the rendering. But I'd say if you're below 100 milliseconds, I mean, GeForce says you should be below 40, but 50, 100. I mean, Stadia works with Stadia. I always say Stadia. Stadia also worked with 100 milliseconds and more. So I know that they want to make sure that they have a great experience, but hey, it works. So what we can also do is, let's copy this really quick, and I want to show you a tiny trick. If you go and make a traceroute, yeah, your internet service provider, and many of them do this, they actually give their hops names so that you can recognize them. And just so you know, this FFM stands for Frankfurt Main, and that means Frankfurt. So that's why I said before, yeah, this is definitely running in Frankfurt. So running a speed test in Zurich would give us different results. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch back to our desktop now, and we're going to change this to something in Germany. Let's say Frankfurt. What should we take? Who can handle our bandwidth loads? Well, guys, I would say, although it's not sponsored, but would be cool, LeaseWeb, they can handle that very well. So let's go and let's make a test in terms of what can we expect, and let's have a look. Wow, I mean, a ping of 0 milliseconds is always very impressive. Now you see, we're having 1.1 gigabit per second. Again, this is 1.1 gigabit per second, or 1100 megabits per second. Goes even up to 1300, I assume. And the upload will be pretty much the same. Oh wow, it's even better. Nice. Yeah, imagine you would have that at home, you know, you would upload your hard drive in a minute. So that is really cool. 2.1, 2.2 gigabit per second. I wonder if they notice this because, you know, we're most probably influencing someone else's gaming experience if we drain so much bandwidth. Because yes, this is an input-output act, but still we occupying the network. So yeah, nice, really cool. So yeah, as I said before, it's a browser. You could do whatever you want. I'm not saying you should, but you can do whatever you want. Wink, wink. So that's about this one. And to show you one more time what I was referring to in the other video, it's a bit clunky. So if I would click now on controller configuration, this will happen. And I like this because it helps me to go into the actual Steam. It basically, you know, forces the screen to come in the front. But you see this now? I mean, this is us basically controlling the virtual desktop. That's why I said, like, it's not nice. I mean, you shouldn't be able to see this. This is why I'm saying Stadia is doing a fantastic job. Guys, don't hate so much on Stadia. They deserve some credits. I know everybody's like, boo-hoo, boo-hoo, but Stadia is cool. Different than GeForce Now, they will get there. If they don't cut the ties, if they don't say, thank you very much, founders, it was a nice time with you guys, but if we give them also the chance to develop, I think that it's better to have more competitors than just to put everything on one card. So there are things that Stadia does really well, and I will make a video about that as well, but just let me tell you what Stadia does really, really well is interface. So you see, right now we have that virtual desktop open, and I could actually load Steam and bring it to the max. So this is now my virtual desktop Steam, but I can tell you already, if I would do anything else than going back into Hitman, it's just not gonna work. So let's say we try Destiny and we hit the install button. Let me press it one more time. I think that, you know, they gradually make updates to the system. So keep in mind, we're recording this on the 10th of February 2020. It can be that they have already made something that you can't do this, because I'm testing this heavily since a week now, and in the past you could click the install button, you could also click the play button, but you would have an error message. You would see this in the other video that I made, but let's try one more time. Let's take City Skylines. Okay, you see it says installing, but doesn't install it anymore. Yeah, I think they're smarter by now. These guys from GeForce. Yeah. Okay, in the past it crashed, but good. You know, they're working hard on this, so we should consider this a plus side. Oh wow, you do not have enough availability space to install this game. Huh. Ah, you heard that? Wing, wing. So you see, this is what I'm saying with regards to, that's not cool. You shouldn't see that. Because it feels like you can still mess with the system, which on the one hand side, if you're like me, you like this, and that's why you're here and you watch this video with me. But for a gamer, I mean, if I would give this to a friend of mine, or if I would ask my wife to play and she would encounter this, she would be like, I give up. This is not something that you want to see. And here's the thing: if you close certain windows, I noticed that I cannot really bring them in the front anymore. So let's see if it works this time. Yep. And now let's try to bring back Hitman. Okay, Hitman works. Great. Sometimes it doesn't really work. Cool. All right. So we're recording since about 39 minutes. I tell you what, you guys, we're gonna stop this one here. What did we do so far? What did you learn? What did you see so far? You saw the overall gameplay. You saw a little bit about how it looks like, graphic. I know we didn't test the most powerful game. We will definitely do this, but it gives you a great overall impact of how it looks like. We messed around with the system, but before we did that, we actually played around, and I gave you a rundown of the debug mode, which helps you analyze a little bit better your session and will help you to figure out yeah, the overall performance of GeForce Now on your end. We messed a bit with Steam. I'm sure we caused a little bit of chaos on some of the servers doing a 2 gigabit per second speed test while others are playing. Sorry, you guys. Yeah, and for the next video that I'm gonna prepare, we're gonna do something really cool. We're gonna use my other camera. I have a GoPro and that can record up to 240 frames per second. So what we're gonna do now in the second video is we're gonna record the input and we will then counter check this with the framing that we will receive from the debugging tool. So we can then actually figure out the actual latency that it took from pressing the button to seeing the actual output on the screen. There are some other cool videos out there from other content creators that have done a fantastic job, for example, using an LED I saw once, but I found a different method, which is also pretty nice, because on Mac you have an onboard keyboard, an on-screen keyboard. And that on-screen keyboard allows us to see when the Mac registered the input, so then we can count it even more accurately. But yeah, so far that has been series 1 or series 2. I don't know, are we series 2 already? No, we're series 1. This is still the first video of playing with GeForce Now. I think it's pretty cool. I like it. I'd love to hear what you guys think. How was your experience? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to help out this channel, it would be super cool if you would hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss the next video that I upload. And I see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care, you guys. Have a good one.